All right, folks, last night at the CNN town hall with Nikki Haley, former United Nations ambassador. She's running, of course, president on the Republican side. She was asked about her decision to remove the Confederate flag following the racist mass shooting at Mother Emmanuel AME Church that took place, of course, several years ago. So listen to what she said.
We had that horrific shooting in Charleston that killed 9 amazing souls. And it happened at a time where it was on the heels of Ferguson. And I was so worried our state was going to fall apart. And the national media came in and they wanted to make it about race. They wanted to make it about the death penalty. They wanted to make it about guns. And I strong-armed them at the time. And I said, there will be a time and place we can have those debates. But right now we need to put to rest 9 amazing souls. And I tried to protect them. And I didn't have that luxury because a couple of days later, the murderer came out with his manifesto holding the Confederate flag. And at that time, I went and I called my staff and I said, I want you to set up 4 meetings. One with the Democrat leadership, one with the Republican leadership, one with the federal delegation, and one with community leaders. And I said, don't tell them why I want to meet because I knew they wouldn't come. And when those meetings happened, I said to them, at 3 o'clock today, I'm going to ask for the Confederate flag to come down. If you will stand with me, I will forever be grateful. And if you won't, I'll never tell anyone you were in this room. And I'll never tell any about who dissented. And I have never done that. I have kept my promise on that. When we got together, we had everybody, Republicans, Democrats, whites, blacks, come together for the flag to come down. But that's when the hard work happened. We needed 2/3 vote of the House and 2/3 vote of the Senate, which is an impossible feat almost. But what we did is we went back and we didn't fall into the fear of that situation. We turned away from fear and we turned toward God and the values that make our country great. And that's what we have to do again. We were able to get 2/3 vote of the House and the Senate. We were able to go and show that we didn't have riots, we had vigils. We didn't have protests, we had hugs. And at that point in time, South Carolinians showed the entire world what strength and grace looks like. But it starts at the top. It starts with the tone, it starts with results, and it starts with having respect for the people you serve, that they don't deserve any more drama than they're already having to deal with.
So one of the reasons why that was interesting was because previously you said you thought that the flag was important to many South Carolinians as a symbol of their heritage. And so your decision to do that came from that place, which probably made it more effective. But how difficult was it? Because some people thought you were going to protect the flag.
It truly was the hardest time of my life. I mean, it was a very emotional, difficult time because you saw what so many people in South Carolina do on a Wednesday night. They went to Bible study. But on that night, someone else showed up. He didn't look like them. He didn't act like them. He didn't sound like them. And they didn't call the cops. They didn't throw him out. Instead, they pulled up a chair and they prayed with him for an hour. And when they bowed their heads in that last prayer, he began to shoot. These were people like Ethel Lance, and she would go around Mother Emmanuel Church singing "One day at a time, sweet Jesus. That's all I ask of you. Give me the strength to do every day what I have to do." Our youngest victim, Tywanza Sanders, had just finished college, had the world in front of him. And on that night, he stood in front of his 87-year-old great Aunt Susie and told the killer, "You don't have to do this. We mean no harm to you." Or it was people like Cynthia Hurd, whose life motto was simply to be kinder than necessary. That's who these people were. They weren't famous, but they loved their families, they loved their church, and they loved their community. And we had an obligation to make sure that we got it right. The problem was, in the Senate, it passed pretty quickly because the pastor of the church was a senator. And I'll never get over the night of the murders. I called him and I said, "Pastor Pinckney, I'm so sorry about what happened. I will be there first thing in the morning. anything your congregation needs, we will take care of them. And what haunts me to this day is that his cell phone was in his pocket and he was at the church. And he was one of the people that was murdered. So the Senate passed it through very quickly because their brother had been killed. It was the House that was so difficult. And the House, I remember they came back and said, let's put a different flag up. And I said, no, I want the flag to come down. Then they came back and said, okay, they'll take the flag down, but they don't want to take down the pole. Well, I had been in the South Carolina legislature. I knew what that meant. That meant that as soon as the flag came down, another flag was going to go up after the national media went away. And they said to me, you could do this. This would be a win for you. But I didn't want any other governor to have to deal with what I was having to deal with. And finally, they said, we can't do it. They won't pass it. And I went to them, to the Republican caucus, and I said, I want to tell you a story. I said, when I was growing up.
In a second. Now, in the same town hall, they asked her about this whole idea of woke. Listen to this.
Woke, the word woke, used to be used by progressives to talk about an awareness of inequities and historical inequities. But obviously it means something else to conservatives criticizing it. What does it mean to you? How do you define woke?
There's a lot of things. I mean, you want to start with biological boys playing in girls' sports. That's one thing. The fact that we have gender pronoun classes in the military now. I mean, all of these things that are pushing what a small minority want on the majority of Americans, it's too much. It's too much. I mean, the idea that we have biological boys playing in girls' sports, it is the women's issue of our time. My daughter ran track in high school. I don't even know how I would have that conversation with her. How are we supposed to get our girls used to the fact that biological boys are in their locker rooms? And then we wonder why a third of our teenage girls seriously contemplated suicide last year? We should be growing strong girls, confident girls. Then you go and you talk about building a strong military. How are you going to build the morale in a strong military when you're doing gender pronoun classes? Why is it that you have, kids undergoing critical race theory where if a little girl's in kindergarten, if goes into kindergarten, if she's white, you're telling her she's bad. If she's brown or black, you're telling her she's never going to be good enough and she's always going to be a victim. All of these things have gone to where they are pushing, and transgender, the whole issue of the transgender, it's not that people don't think in America you should live the way you want to live. I want everybody to live the way they want to live. But stop pushing your views on everybody else. That's the problem, is they're starting to push everything on the rest of it.
Okay, so there was just a lot that you said, but let me...
There's a lot wrong in our country when it comes to that.
Okay, so let me deal with several things here. First and foremost, I will never, ever give Nikki Haley any credit for the Confederate flag coming down. Why? Because the Confederate flag came down in South Carolina because 9 black people were murdered. How many times have I said on this show that black blood has had to be spilled in order for America to do what is right? Black blood was spilled, Jimmy Lee Jackson, in order to get the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Black blood was spilled in Mississippi, the assassination of Medgar Evers, 16th Street Baptist Church, and numerous other, Cheney, Schwerner, Goodman. We can go on and on and on. The numerous times black people have been lynched in this country, murdered in this country, and all of a sudden the people said, let's now pass those laws. We're just talking about police abuse and accountability. How many police departments actually begin to be held accountable after the death of George Floyd? It's always black blood. And so, she wants, the national media want to come in and make it about race, because it was. And we knew that. We knew what the hell this was. It did not take long to uncover the racist past or the racist reality of Dylann Roof. She's like, oh, 2 days later, this manifesto came out. No, that was uncovered within 24 hours. So the reason I will not give Nikki Haley any credit, because it's not like she said, let's do the right thing, take it down. No, Nikki Haley supported that flag being up. She supported that flag staying up. But it wasn't until 9 black people were killed in a Bible study when all of a sudden she found a conscience. I don't give credit to somebody doing the right thing after black people were killed. I don't give any credit to somebody when we've had to bury our own. No. See, a lot of times people will say stuff like, well, so-and-so was a man of his times. Well, during slavery, there were white abolitionists. During slavery, there were people who did not believe in slavery. There was John Brown and lots of others. During Jim Crow, there were white people who stood against racism and bigotry. But the reality is that Nikki Haley, an Indian American woman, stood in support of the Confederate flag because she did not want to go against white conservative Republicans, because she wanted to be governor. And now running for president, Nikki Nimrata, we are not going to allow you to act as if that black blood being spilled was not the sole reason why South Carolina did what they did. They had no choice. And even with those racists in the House trying to hold on to that flag, they knew nothing less than it coming down was acceptable. And then you hear Nikki asked about woke. And what does she immediately go to? She immediately ran to transgender. She don't want to deal with the reality what black folks are saying when it comes to woke. She doesn't want to deal with the Moms for Liberty taking over school districts, majority black, and now firing black superintendents. She doesn't want to deal with the reality of racism in America. And then she lies about, oh, how kindergarten kids, white kids, are being taught critical race theory. Nikki, you are a liar. You are a 100% liar. And we're not going to sit here and play these silly little games that we're seeing right now. Margie Bright, state senator in South Carolina, Margie Bright Matthews joins us right now. And I got to ask you, Senator, when you heard all of that from Nikki Haley, now that she's running on the national stage, trying to appeal to these MAGA Republicans, your thoughts?
Exactly. Along the same lines that you just enunciated. However, the most important thing we need to think about when we realize her comments on the issue of the flag coming down, she forgot to say that all of her 2 terms while governor, the flag was up. She never mentioned it. I've tried to verify what she said about calling some of our leaders to her office, but you know, laws are made in the chambers. They're not made in the governor's office. They do not begin there. That's the first fallacy. The second thing is where she's talking about this flag, and prior to that, she talked about her father having a turban and her going to a farmer's market to get some food, and how she felt that he was treated by police. Somebody called the cops, and how she felt there was racial discrimination against her father. Well, you and I both know the flag in and of itself coming down does not impact racism in South Carolina. Where is she on the issue of hate crimes? That came up during her term, during the 7 years that she was in office, and never did she call the leaders together to talk about that. So to me, it's disingenuous for her to now say that, oh, she did something for the issue of crimes, hate crimes in South Carolina, and the issue that happened with Senator Pinckney. Senator Pinckney, and she never mentions his name in this address. Unfortunately, earlier that week, he spoke from the state floor on the issues of guns, AR-15s, mass weapons. We believe that that's why he was targeted and basically assassinated along with the other 8 people in Mother Emmanuel. She never talks about that. Further in the town hall interview, she talks about her support that the government should not limit people to have AR-15. And she pretends that there's no problem with hate crimes in America. She does not believe in, you've heard the position, the unfortunate position she has chosen to take as it relates to wokeism, despite the fact that her father wears a turban, despite the fact that her daughter is engaged to an African-American man. I don't understand the position she has taken in reference to this, and Nikki has to do better.
Well, we know what she's doing. She's appealing to the right wing because she needs their votes in the primary. She's got to run hard right.
Right. And she's got to start. She's lining herself up for South Carolina. She's lining herself up because, number one, the abortions issue, she never answered that issue, because we know that in South Carolina, in the red South, of which she wants to gain traction, she knows she has to walk a straight line as to that issue, and she has to make sure that she supports guns rights. She knows she cannot do anything with their so-called government or constitutional Second Amendment rights. It's idiotic that she would in one verse, she says, oh, I don't support government intervening with red flag laws, but yet she supports government intervening with the abortion laws. Either you have a constitutional right or you don't. Either you support government intervening in a person's household or you don't.
Yeah, when you have her to say, don't you force your views on us.
That's right.
Isn't that what anti-abortion folks are doing?
That's right.
Senator Matthews, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, folks, let's go to our panel on this here. Julian, I'll start with you. Let's just be real here. We see the games that Nimrata is playing here. And the bottom line is, I ain't giving her no credit for any of that.
No, she doesn't deserve any. She's a certified public fool, quite frankly, and she's shown it time and again. When she first came out and said she was running for president, she identified herself as a woman of color, which I found highly ironic and really repels the comment woman of color from me, because what are you talking about in terms of black women? What you say her name is Narada?
Her actual name is Nimrata. She's Indian American, but she goes by Nikki.
Okay. I know her name is Nikki. I didn't know what her other name was. But basically, she deserves no credit. Beyond that, it is partial for her to attempt to manipulate the race issue. But we're going to get a lot of that from South Carolina. We got it with her. We're going to have it with Tim Scott as well. So you were absolutely right, Roland. When he said, what does it mean by woke? She goes straight to trans. She can't go to race. She can't go to history. So she goes to trans, and that's a hot button issue for so many people, even though trans people are people. They have rights. Leave them alone. My line about that is, if you're not sleeping with me, I don't care who you're sleeping with. But I have all my stuff together. I don't know what you're doing, and I don't want to know. This is the humanity of so many people has been denigrated. I don't see young men and women, except for some of these very entitled ones, really arguing about who's in the bathroom with them. That's not what this is about.
Right.
It's about basic human rights, and these are human rights that she has turned into a political football is absolutely wrong.
Well, they don't want to deal with the reality, Avis, of what is happening with race in this country. And again, trying to sit here and say, well, the national media want to make the shooting about race, which we knew what it was about.
Hello.
I know it is really interesting to see the pretzel twists that she puts herself in to avoid stating the obvious, and that is the reality of hate crimes in this nation, and that particularly egregious hate crime right in her backyard. But it is really interesting, too, to see how she, as you mentioned, lied on critical race theory. And this is one of those things, I'm telling you, that is particularly annoys me because, back before critical race theory was talked talked about by Republicans every other breath, seemingly, I used it as the theoretical underpinning of my dissertation. So I'm very familiar with critical race theory. And it's just very interesting to me to see all of these Republicans who, quite frankly, have not picked up a book, I'm sure, in the entire literature of critical race theory, paint all of these fictitious lies about what it is, specifically saying that it's being taught to children in kindergarten when, honestly, it's not even taught typically even in undergraduate. You need to be a graduate student or in law school, oftentimes, to read the literature, because it's a very high-level literature in the legal theory of canon. And so it's just interesting to see how they always create a boogeyman in every election, just to spiral lies around in order to tap into white fear and white anger. And for this election and for previous ones, it looks like they'll continue to use critical race theory as their whipping boy in order to get white folks in a frenzy about nothing.
Maria?
All I can say after watching that clip is Nimrata, please. She is going on and on and on about critical race theory and all these different issues and how the shooting at Mother Emmanuel was not about race. To me, it only just reminds me of what MLK said, which is that the white moderate is the biggest impediment to Black people actually making advancement in this country. If people like Nikki Haley actually spent time dealing with race issues and unpacking race issues, if they put the amount of energy that they spend running away from race issues actually into dealing with race issues, we would be able to get somewhere. Dr. Malveaux took the words right out of my mouth. When she first ran, she ran and said she was a woman of color, which actually was offensive to me because she literally is running in a party where she can't even use her real first name, and that is Nimrata. So Nikki could have saved everything that she said. Nobody wants to hear it. It doesn't give her any points on the right, and Black people know what this is. And furthermore, I think the other thing, too, as some of the other folks highlighted, she spent so much time saying that, you know, these issues that the left is focusing on, like race issues and gender issues, are things that nobody cares about. Well, I don't know any Black people who, within their first top 5, I would say even top 10 issues that they care about when they go to the polls, Black or white for that matter, would list oppressing trans people as one of their issues. People are not thinking about that. People are thinking about how can they pay their bills? How can they stop having to worry that their kids are going to go to school and possibly not return home because they were murdered at school because of some person coming in with a rifle? These are the things that people are thinking about. People are thinking about how can I make sure that getting access to health care doesn't bankrupt me? The only people who are worried about actively oppressing trans people are her and her little friends. So she really just needs, I don't even understand what the point is of her even running this campaign, honestly.
Well, look, I mean, we understand how the culture wars work. We see what Ron DeSantis is doing. We see what they're doing, and so that's what the target goal is. And so we're going to hear a whole lot where they're going to slap woke on everything. But again, they must be forced to literally answer the questions. That's what's important. And hell, they can't even define it. And that's just the reality. They can't define it. But again, you know, she wants to present herself as somehow superhero, because what happened with the Confederate flag and how it was so hard and she pulled these things together. Well, I'm sure it was so hard with the Black people who were gunned down in that church as well. And again, Black blood, that's what caused it to happen. That's what caused the change to actually take place in South Carolina.